Well, hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for tonight's edition, shall we say, of the Whiskey Coach. Cheers. Tonight on the docket is George Remus Repeal Reserve, straight bourbon whiskey. Before we jump into that, kind of a quick side story, because you know I like to talk, let's be honest. I'm 5-6 minutes into the review. I just got done filming it, and I get a phone call coming through, stops my whole review in its tracks. So this is take 2 officially. So hopefully I'll bring the same amount of energy and passion as I literally just did. But unfortunately, this is the second time I'm filming this, which is very rare. Like I always tell you guys, I'm usually one and done, and I jump right into it. I didn't yet taste it. Boy Scout honor, I didn't taste it, so you will be seeing my my initial reactions for the first time. But I did just pour the juice, and that's when the call came in. So I'm not technologically savvy enough to know how to pick it back up. It seemed like it was just done, and the video was over. Anyways, before we jump into that, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Just want to wish you and yours a holiday greetings, and thanks again for watching these reviews. I didn't really realize how much I missed them until I started doing it again. So just thanks to everyone. Thanks for your interactions. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying the heck out of doing this again. So anyways, back to the whiskey. This is a straight bourbon whiskey, 94 proof. We're looking at 50% 2005 bourbon, 21% rye. 15% 2006 bourbon, 36% rye. 35% 2006 bourbon, made up of 21% rye. So you're looking at between 11 and 12 years old on this. This is an MGP product. There is no Remus Distillers per se. It is distilled by George Remus Distilling Company, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, code 4. They source their juice from MGP. If you know anything about that distillery, that's what they're doing. This is Repeal Series 1. If you see up top there, that indicates to me that they're going to do another release or 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe annually of a whiskey that they're going to call Remus Repeal Reserve. So that's kind of cool. That's a neat thing to see. I do like the kind of that Gothic style architectural decor on the bottle, kind of reminiscent of 1933, which is what the title is celebrating, the repeal of Prohibition. Yada yada yada. Features a buttery, toffee, honeyed smoothness that leads to a bold spiciness, finishing with notes of raisin, fig, and toffee. In short, Remus Repeal Reserve is the best we make, or as George Remus himself might have said, some damn fine giggle water. I find that funny. So I'm looking forward to this. I've heard some good things. I know they make a more of a traditional standard offering in bourbon as well as rye, I believe. But this is kind of their top end. Cost standpoint, this is in the $80 to $90 range. So it's not cheap, but you know, nothing really is, unfortunately, when it comes to bourbon, especially when you get north of 10 years. So looking forward to trying this. Wanted to give a shout out to a friend of mine, Mike Fazio, for actually providing this bottle for me. Every year we do a bottle exchange where we'll exchange spirits, and this is one of the bottles he gave me this year. So thanks again, Mike. Appreciate that. I think that's all I had. I'm really upset that the first take kind of got screwed up because I thought I brought some more information that I'm kind of drawing a blank on. But let's jump right into it. Visually, you know, it looks like a standard bourbon that I would try. I really start to lose. Very rarely do I see a bourbon that I'm like, whoa, that looks off, or that looks different. I mean, it's bourbon. Kind of a cornier, maybe a little bit of oat on the nose. Sweetness, a lot more sweetness than I guess I would expect from a, you know, kind of a higher rye mash bill. But you definitely get that spice on the back end for sure. It's there, it's present, but not as spicy as I typically get from a, well, I don't know necessarily if that's higher rye percentage in most bourbons. I guess not. Anyways, interesting how they did that. They kind of blended a few years spirits, so I'm looking forward to how this one tastes. I have heard some good reviews. I have to admit, I did a little reading up on this. I have heard some good things. But as you guys know, I'll give this to you. I'll give this to you straight, so to speak. Man, it finishes quickly. Not a lot of viscosity, a lighter mouthfeel. A little bit of a tinge of a burn, a sting, a little bit of, taste a little youth on the back end, a little tartness, a little sharpness. I keep going back to that feeling in my head. I mean this in the nicest way possible. Not one particular element of this bourbon jumps out at me, meaning it's a pretty well-rounded offering from these guys. Aftertaste, finish, I'm getting sweeter notes than I did upon swallowing it. Sticks with you. It definitely has some sticking power to it. Let's try this again. I don't know if I talk about this enough, but really, guys, when you're tasting, give it 2, 3, 4, really 5 sips until you really kind of judge it. Oftentimes, these things will change so much in the sake of saving time. We don't always get a chance to do this on these reviews, but definitely give it a couple tries, because that first sip often kind of shocks your palate. Second, third, fourth, fifth sip is where you start to really pick up on some of the notes and the flavors in the juice. It's already a little bit different. I'm tasting things that are a little bit, maybe a little deeper in the glass than I got that first go around. Man, I'm having a really hard time with this one because, like I said, nothing jumps out. It's just a well-balanced whiskey, well-balanced bourbon. I'm not as big of a fan of the initial kind of that mid to end palate where it's a little tart, it's a little briny, a little salty almost. Which I personally, that's not necessarily my favorite in terms of my palate. But it's very approachable. It's not bold. It is well-rounded until, like I said, that end point. I have to say, I think I probably prefer the nose a little bit more than I do the mouthfeel. And the finish less than that. So, initial reaction is, I nose it, I like it, I taste it, and then I don't really like the finish. That's kind of where I'm sitting right now. Let me give it another shot. Getting to know it. I'm gonna give this bourbon a 6.8. Solid. I don't think, and sorry, Mike Fazio, my friend who provided this bottle, I don't think that this is something I would spend the money they're asking for. But as a gift, I'll take it all day long. It looks nice on my shelf. It's a cool story. The fluid isn't bad. It's just, to me, if I can spend $80 to $90, I could spend it otherwise and probably be a little happier at the end of the day. So that's my review for George Remus Special Reserve. Quick teaser, guys. We don't talk a ton of Canadian whiskey. I did a ton of Crown Royal stuff early in my YouTube career, so to speak. Canadian whiskey gets a bad rap for a ton of reasons. I'll get into all that later. But there has been a recent release or releases in the Canadian bourbon world called the Northern Border Collection. It's almost like the Canadian equivalent of the Buffalo Trace Antique or the Pappy or any of those big kind of, where us connoisseurs, us whiskey enthusiasts go crazy about. They came out with the folks at Corby. It's a big name in Canada. Corby's Wisers came out with a series of Canadian whiskeys that I've recently acquired and got my hands on, multiples of most of these, quite frankly. Number 1, Gooderham and Worts little Trinity. It's a 17-year-old Canadian whiskey. Extremely affordable, by the way. Got to go north of the border to grab it. This is one you've probably seen in your liquor stores. The Pike Creek. Now, this is a 21-year-old Pike Creek, finished in Speyside Scotch casks. That one seems cool. This one, I'm kind of going in order of excitement for me, by the way. This one, I'm extremely excited about. Man down. This is a Lot 40 cask strength 12-year. That one is extremely exciting because I love the original that they have. And this is a 12-year-old cask strength. J.P. Weiser's 35-year-old offering. Heard absolutely wonderful reviews on this one. You could kill a man with this bottle, by the way. And then finally, probably the prize in the group is my official oldest whiskey that I own now. Oldest spirit that I own now. I have 30s. I had just showed you I have a 35. I now have a 40-year-old Canadian Club. So, a gentleman that I acquired some of those from provided me with samples of several of those. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go down a little bit of a Canadian whiskey run here coming soon. Unless you guys have an issue with that, I'd like to show you what those are about. Because again, I think it's a misunderstood category. I think there's a lot of great things happening. It's not a light mixing whiskey that many of you guys think it is. They're doing bold, flavorful, really cool whiskeys there now that I kind of want to jump into and try myself. That's it. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed the review. You'll see a lot more of me soon. Again, and as always, glasses up.